ironically, disappearing is what led to his being found out, you know, to his identity being revealed. Whereas beforehand, Frodo thought that disappearing would get him out of the situation. It would help him or result in a good outcome. But the ironic thing is that the result was quite the complete opposite. Hello, welcome to Amalion. Today I just wanted to briefly discuss a moment from the Fellowship of the Ring. That is Chapter 9, At the Sign of the Prancing Pony. I wanted to direct your attention toward a particular passage from that chapter. To his alarm, Frodo became aware that the ridiculous young Took, encouraged by his success with the fat mare of Mickle Delving, was now actually giving a comic account of Bilbo's farewell party. He was already giving an imitation of the speech, and was drawing near to the astonishing disappearance. So in this passage, as I'm sure you recall, Frodo, Pippin, and Sam they're in the Prancing Pony. They're enjoying the company after they finished eating supper in their room. Pippin began to talk a little too freely, and Frodo begins to worry that he might let it slip that Frodo is indeed the Frodo Baggins. So he realizes that he needs to figure out a way to stop him. Curiously, Frodo's first instinct here is to jump. He jumps onto the table, and he begins directing all the attention toward himself. In that present moment, everyone in the room is looking at him. So this is a little bit silly, considering one of Frodo's main goals was to remain discreet and to conceal his identity in this chapter. That's even before this chapter. That's what Gandalf tells him. You'll go not as Baggins, but you'll go as Underhill. You don't draw any unnecessary attention to yourself. And so he goes to the Prancing Pony, and one of his first instinctual decisions is to direct all the attention toward himself in that moment. It's a little strange. So then, immediately after he does this, he jumps up onto the table. Everyone's looking at him. He seems uncertain as to what he should say at all. So it almost seems as though something from outside influenced his sudden involuntary reaction. A reaction which directs all attention towards himself, as I said. Then something even more significant occurs. Frodo suddenly felt very foolish, and found himself, as was his habit when making a speech, fingering the things in his pocket. He felt the ring on its chain, and quite unaccountably the desire came over him to slip it on and vanish out of the silly situation. Firstly, I'd like to point out, in Frodo's mind, the situation was merely silly. Like word for word, it said, the narrator says, and a desire comes over him to slip on the ring so that he could vanish out of the silly situation. But in reality, this situation was not silly at all. It's quite a dangerous one. To be revealed means possibly being captured by his hunters and likely killed, or even worse than that. But in this instant, it seems silly to him. So it seems quite odd that this would be his manner of thought in that moment. But anyway, if we attend to the text even further, it says, "It seemed to him, somehow, as if the suggestion came to him from outside, from someone or something in the room." What this suggests is, quite exactly what it says. From someone or something in the room. He felt compelled to put on the ring, which would reveal that the ring bearer was there at the inn, and he would reveal that he was there. It seems to me that this someone, quote-unquote someone, was the swarthy Breelander who stood looking at them with a knowing and half-mocking expression that made them feel very uncomfortable. Then the text goes on to say, "Presently he slipped out of the door, followed by the squint-eyed southerner. The two had been whispering together a good deal during the evening." It seemed to him somehow as if the suggestion came to him from outside, from someone. So this someone, who is that? Well, it seems to me that it's these two men who were eyeing him and whispering together a good deal during the evening. And the reason why I believe it's them is because we find out that they were in league with the enemy eventually. I mean, we read the story. the enemy, who, obviously searching for the ring bearer, because there was rumor that he might be found in Bree. So the desire for these two men to find Frodo, or one could even say the desire to find the ring, because if one finds the ring, one finds Frodo. And if one finds Frodo, one finds the ring. So it goes hand in hand there. So one might say that this was known by the ring itself. This desire for Frodo to be found, for these men to find Frodo. The ring knew it. The ring could feel that. It could feel the desire to be found. So the ring made an attempt. So the ring, it did exactly that. The ring made an attempt to be found by those forces who were, those two men who were searching for him, for it. And I think it makes sense to believe that the ring itself influenced Frodo to jump onto the table, directing all attention toward him. So the second part of this is the fact that Frodo's decision to jump upon the table led to the inciting of the Bree folks' passions. So what do I mean by that? Well, they see him, and they immediately think that Frodo had drank too much ale. And so their immediate thoughts are overindulgence. He's drunk. Oh, he's jumping on the table. He's going to sing a song or something. He's acting silly. So you can see there, like I said, the overindulgence of ale, which influences poor decision making. Now, of course, that was their first suggestion. They thought, oh, he's drunk. But Frodo wasn't drunk, of course. We know that. He wasn't drinking, as far as we know. But we certainly know he wasn't intoxicated. But nevertheless, he was perceived to be. And that harks back to the very idea of temptation, and how the ale in question induces the desire to commit sinful tendencies. Like I said, it incites the passions. Then the Bree folk, those who are actually drunk themselves, they ask Frodo to sing them a song. So Frodo does this. He sings in the song as requested, and when he finishes the song, this is what the text says. It says, "They made Frodo have another drink, and then begin his song again." So, like I said, overindulgence, right? So, but then the text goes on to say, "It was now Frodo's turn to feel pleased with himself. He capered about on the table, and when he came a second time to the cow jumped over the moon, he leaped in the air." And so here we see Frodo swelling up with pride, right? His ego's inflated because he himself is getting drunk, and the crowd is showing a likeness toward his singing. So then, of course, his pride gets the better of him and tempts him to jump up into the air, which consequently leads to his fall from the table and the ring slipping on his finger, right, making him disappear. So you can see the domino effect here. So firstly, you have influence to jump on table. Then second, you have which excites the drunken crowd, making them request a song. 3, Frodo grants them their desire. The fourth step, we see Frodo pridefully leaps off the table, which causes his disappearance. So ironically, disappearing is what led to his being found out, to his identity being revealed. Whereas beforehand, Frodo thought that disappearing would get him out of the situation. It would help him or result in a good outcome. But the ironic thing is that the result was quite the complete opposite. One can look at this situation as, it's a desire to sin, because in the moment it seems as though it will help us. Then after the sin has been committed, only then do we realize the ill consequence of it. The forces of the enemy, that's how it works. The forces of the enemy, speaking as a Christian myself, it does exactly that. So it pulls that trick. The enemy goes after the intellect first, it seems, arises some deceitful thought along the lines of, it'll be fine if I do this, just once, just right now, or it's fine to indulge a little sometimes, I deserve it, or something. Or, although I probably shouldn't do this. You have that consciousness, that conscious sin. You're like, oh, I know I probably shouldn't do this, but there might be some good result that could come from it, right? So there's like these lies that sort of wiggle their way in to the consciousness. So these mischievous thoughts that make you sympathize with the sin, with the temptation. It sort of sugarcoats it, making it seem less serious than it really is in that moment, right before you have committed the sin. Just like Frodo, when he regarded the situation as silly instead of seeing it in its true nature. But oftentimes when we do sin, we do not often do it once, just that one time, nor does it yield a fruitful result, a result that we expected would come beforehand, before it was committed, right? So one can think of this analogy. Think of a beautiful lion. There's this magnificent, regal, tremendously gorgeous lion sitting there before you in a cage. You desperately wish to pet it, like we do our little pet cats at home, and to give it a big kiss upon its giant nose. But you absolutely, obviously, know that you shouldn't, because it will likely harm you. Then suddenly, a person beside you says, "Don't worry, it's okay. I know this lion. He will let you pet him, but you can only pet him once. If you pet him once, then you will be unharmed." So you trust the person, and you jump into the cage. You approach the terribly gorgeous creature, and you run your hand through its warm, soft, shaggy fur. But you only do it once. The lion does not stir, nor shows any concern about your presence. So you turn to depart. But then you suddenly stop, because you desire to pet it again. After all, it seemed pleased to be pet the first time. Surely it is okay for you to pet him again. So you do, and the lion leaps forward and swipes its claws across your face. We think it's okay to sin, assuming it will only go so far, but we usually end up overindulging. And then afterwards, we feel the ill effect of having committed the sin. So in conclusion, the point of this analysis today was hopefully to show you that by breaking down the scene and analyzing its key components of Frodo in the Prancing Pony, that the One Ring works in a very similar way to actual temptation in the primary world. And Tolkien was very intentional about this. He in his secondary world that he created, he placed in it very subtly the same theological understanding of sin that we have here in our primary world. And of course, he used the One Ring as an application of that. Tolkien's Catholic influence is quite clear in this chapter, particularly when Frodo sings his song on the table in the Prancing Pony. I hope you found this analysis intriguing. Thanks for watching.